I'm Owen Bigland. This is the Inside Edge video blog. Vancouver real estate is in a bubble and it's going to crash. That's the latest report from the European bank UBS, who I believe are based out of Frankfurt, Germany, that was released earlier this week. Now, this is nothing new. UBS, the bank, has been putting out this same report for about 8 years now, and they just kind of keep retweaking it and repositioning the cities that they say are in a bubble and are about to crash. Vancouver in this report is ranked number 4 as the most overpriced market in the world. Last year we were ranked number 2, so hey, I guess we're getting more affordable according to UBS. Now, these reports, I've blogged about these many times before. As a matter of fact, I did a blog on this report last year when UBS put this out. They're kind of like the boy who keeps crying wolf. I guess one of these days they're going to get it right. Now, whether that's a bubble meaning that a 50% correction or more, personally, I see very little chance of that. What I do see a chance of, or a likelihood that will happen for sure, will be one of our run-of-the-mill market corrections of 5 to 15%. Who knows? Depending on the circumstances, and there are so many moving parts, which I blogged about many times before, about predicting markets and prices down the road, we could get a little bit more of a more severe correction, maybe 20%. But 50, 60% price drop, I think there's a very slim chance of that happening. Now, as I talked about last year when UBS put this report out, UBS continues to simply base the Vancouver market off of statistics from Stats Canada. They look at average household income in Vancouver compared to home prices. The average household in Vancouver earns $68,000 a year, and to afford a single-family detached home, you need close to $2 million. They need 15, 16 times, 20 times, 22 times their annual income, when if anything more than 4 or 5 times your annual income is considered to be overpriced. So when you look at it from that metric, of course UBS is going to think this is in a horrendous bubble and it's going to crash. Now, go back and watch the blogs. I've done so many of these over the years. Vancouver is a market that became unhinged off fundamentals probably 15 or 20 years ago. The start was after Expo 86, but it's gained a lot more traction, of course, in the last 10 years. Vancouver is an equity-based market, meaning that it's people that have been in this market for decades, have ridden the prices up, and have created a tremendous amount of capital gain and price appreciation, and are able to continue to move up the market. Of course, Vancouver is also a magnet for foreign buyers. Now, foreign buyers, I should say, I'm talking foreign buyers that have their Canadian residency, permanent residency status, or hold a Canadian passport. How they got that? Through the Quebec program or whatever. There's a bunch of different avenues. But for the most part, they are of foreign descent. They're from China, let's say, but most of them are not classified as foreign buyers in that they have their permanent residency status or hold a Canadian passport. So this is nothing, Vancouver is not an outlier in this situation. Many North American cities are like this. San Francisco, all of Southern California, Portland, Oregon, and Seattle now are becoming magnets for this as well. Toronto, of course, Miami, New York City, Boston, Washington, D.C., and then we could go over to England, London, and a bunch of other cities. Vancouver is attractive to foreign buyers that are classified as foreign buyers, but also Chinese buyers here that have their permanent residency status. So it's not based on what a person earns compared to what it's going to cost to own a typical house. And that's the stats that these companies from 7,000 miles away continue to use from a distance. And of course it's going to look overvalued to them. I would bet that if you slid a unmarked map of North America to someone over at UBS and asked them to point out Vancouver, 9 out of 10 wouldn't even be able to tell you where the city is. They've never flown out to Vancouver. They've never talked to a realtor. They've never talked to developers, mortgage brokers, maybe got a little bit better story on why these prices are where they're at. I could tell them, sum it up in 5 minutes for them, why we've got the prices where they're at. So ask yourself this as well. This market has been on a roll for a while. I mean, if you look at a 30-year price graph of Vancouver, there's been some corrections along the way, but it looks like Mount Kilimanjaro over the last 30 or 40 years. This market really took a crazy run here. I can remember it almost to the day. It was late September 2015. Late September 2015 through until the spring of 2016, we had about a 25 or 30% gain in detached homes in Vancouver and Richmond. And a part of that too is if you go back, you'll see that the Canadian dollar also plummeted at that point, which made things a lot more affordable. After the foreign buyers tax came in, things have cooled off a little bit, not so much for prices, but at least in detached, the volumes, number of sales have cooled for sure. Now, ask yourself this question. These 30, 40, 50, 60% price increases we've had in Vancouver over the last 3 years, they were never based off fundamentals. In other words, the price increase was never based off people earning more money in Vancouver or their salaries doubling or tripling, allowing them to buy these properties and have these prices go up. So ask yourself this, why would any correction be based off fundamentals? And that's what UBS is basing their reports off of. They continue to base it off stats from Stats Canada, income versus affordability. So the price increases have not been based off any of that, so why would any correction? Now, I've blogged about this so many times over the years. I try and keep a balanced approach to my blog here. I don't have biases. I don't have a company line that I've got to toe, which is one of the things that gripes me a bit about the media. I find that the truth lies somewhere in the middle a lot of the times. You've got a lot of media articles that seem to cherry pick. They've got an agenda. They want to see this market correct or crash, and they cherry pick articles to make it look like that's what's going to happen. I'm under the belief that the truth kind of lies in the middle somewhere, and that's what I've always tried to dole out here in my video blog. But one of these days, we are going to get another run-of-the-mill correction. Last one we had was late 2012, moved into 2013. If you blinked, you missed it. We had about an 8 to 12% decline in prices, depending on the product. We are overdue for one. We tend to get one of those every 3 or 4 years, so we're due for one. That could be 5%, it could be 10, 15, maybe something a little more severe. So it's going to happen, we just don't know when. The market could go up another 10% here, and then we get a 10% correction, and then you're back to square one again. So we will get that. But a market crash of 40, 50, 60, 70%, which is kind of what UBS is indicating here, a bubble or a crash, generally means about a 50% correction, cut in half. And I don't really foresee that ever happening. Vancouver has always had a bit of a floor based into pricing. And what I mean by that is when we do get a 5 or 10 or 15% correction, we tend to have a lot of people, investors especially, on the sidelines that are willing to come in with capital to prop it back up again and pick up units or homes that are on sale. If you go back to the blog I was doing in late 2012 and early 2013, please take a look at what I was saying back then. It's all there for everyone. It's unedited. And back in late 2012, I was doing blogs. We had a 10% correction. I was talking about how all the people that were kicking tires prior to that, waiting for the correction to happen, they all disappeared. They got spooked and they were on the sidelines and they thought, hey, it's down 10%. This is the big one. The buyers I had at that time were all had a number of things in common. They were all fairly well-to-do. They were successful investors, entrepreneurs, experienced real estate buyers. They were stepping in at that time and buying up detached homes that were off $200,000. And everyone was saying that this is just the beginning. They saw value there and stepped in and started buying up one-bedroom condos, detached homes, and townhomes from me. Those were my buyers. And boy, I took a lot of heat back in early 2013. There was a bunch of blogs that picked up on it, how I was saying, hey, these people are picking up good value here. They can see that it's off 10% and they've got a long-term horizon. And even if it does go down another 5 or 10%, they're fine with it. You know, geez, my God, these homes, some of these homes that they were picking up in the West Side and in Richmond, you know, at $1.4 million. I can remember one in the West Side of Richmond is probably worth 2.2 now. I can remember homes in Kerrisdale and Kitsilano that were purchased at 1.1, 1.2 that are probably up around $2 million now as well. But people thought they were crazy back in late 2012 to be stepping into a market that was going down. So keep in mind, these reports, they've been out forever. They always seem to look at stats from 7,000 miles away. They look at the stats, and of course, you're going to think that this market is in a bubble. But we've got a lot more things going on than what the statistics show. This is an equity-driven market. It's a market now, in my opinion, that will always be in favor with people that from outside of the Lower Mainland. So not just people from Canada moving out here, but from the United States, from China, from India, from South America. Vancouver has been discovered now. And that flow is not going to end. Whether they've got to pay a 15% foreign buyer's tax or not, they want to buy a piece of Vancouver. And people have to realize that. The days, I think, of Vancouver housing ever being affordable for the typical wage earner, I think, unfortunately, that train left the station about 10 years ago. And we will get these pockets where we will get corrections, where things will go on sale by 5 or 10%. But don't be holding your breath if you're looking for a 50% correction and the price to go back down to what the typical wage earner earns. Is it fair? Maybe not. It's for debate. It's the way the market is. I've blogged about it so many times in the past that all hope is not lost. I am working with young buyers all the time that are getting their foot in this market. They're saving for the down payment. I've done lots of blogs on it. You can start, with a one-bedroom condo in Richmond in the $250,000, $260,000, $280,000 range. Get your foot in the door there, save your money, and eventually move up to the big leagues and get into downtown Vancouver here. I'm Owen Bigland. As always, thanks for watching. If you haven't subscribed to my YouTube blog, please do. I'll see you next week.